Hey, this is Jay with Harafins. Let's get the disclaimer out of the way. DZOFILM did send us this 3-lens Pictor Zoom set, but the thoughts and opinions expressed here are our own. So no money was exchanged, this was merely part of a marketing cooperation, and they let us hold on to the lenses for a little bit so we could actually have a review period. From there, we actually used them on several projects, including music videos, several fashion projects, and a few other things that we'll talk about a little bit later. So starting off, DZO was actually a company I've been following for a little while. And when we were doing our prep for this feature that we were planning, it was just clear that there was something to these lenses, so we needed to explore that. So we did a pretty exhaustive lens test, bringing in actually very big manufacturer lenses. And for whatever reason, the look on the Pictor Zooms just seemed to hit a sweet spot. And we'll dive a little bit more into all that later on. But I will say that there's something that I call the DZO Difference, where they are creating something really, really cool with all of their lens sets between the Vespids, the Kata Zooms, and the Pictors. I gotta say, for Super 35, these are probably my favorite lenses of all time. So the only thing DZO asked us to do was a lens test. We kind of did our own spin on it. I'm just gonna focus on what is the subjective feel that I got working with these lenses. So we're super grateful that DZO let us have an extended review period. They were incredibly generous with us in terms of letting us take our time to plug in as many projects that we could put the DZO Pictor Zooms at the center of, and it really paid off. What you're going to see is not a super technical lens test, but we're just going to be kind of going through what was the finer point that they wanted to draw attention to was that they resolved a color matching issue that they originally had between the 14-30 and their original 3-lens set. Now the 12-25 takes care of that, and you'll see through this lens test that the color is really consistent throughout. And when you compare the range of having a 12mm to a 125mm for Super 35 coverage, you can pretty much do anything. So here we had Morgan. She was one of our PAs and associate producers on Autofiction. That's the indie that we shot last summer. Now you'll see as we move through from the 12-25 to the 20-55, there's something special about the 20-55. And that's also one of these things that I think sets DZO apart, is they created a special lens. With the 20-55, even if that was the only Pictor you could pick up, not only would you be able to get really great subject separation, you do have to get a bit closer to your subject to achieve it, but it's totally possible. But you're also getting this really interesting barrel distortion. As we go out wide on the 12-25 and on the 20-55, they resemble this barrel distortion in one another. But the 20-55 just goes a little further. Now the 12-25 has this really nice performance as soon as you stop it down. So here at a T4, we're starting to get a little bit of starburst in the flare. So the flares are really controllable. Now on the 20-55, okay, this is what I'm calling DZO's secret sauce lens. What's different about the 20-55 is we do get a bit of a veiling effect. It's not knocking down flares quite as much, so you're not going to get the same contrast, and this is why we set these lights up in this way, because it will, in my opinion, really show you what the lens is going to do when you're pointing a lot of sources at it. I also love this effect. This veiling not only feels warm to me, and we can do air quotes over vintage, but I'll say that this looks like something I would want to watch. And that's kind of defined our look as we kind of grow in our own style here. Our YouTube channel is very young, but this video meant so much, which is why it took so long to produce. But I wanted to at least convey like just how special these lenses really are. I love the quality of the zoom, and the flare in the 20-55 is just so nice. And you'll also see that we get some really cool veiling flares on the 12-25 too, and in some of the creative projects that are coming up. Again, this is not a super technical lens test. It's just showing that they all handle color very well. They're all very well matched between the 3 lenses in the set. So what we were provided is the 12-25, the 20-55, and the 50-125. So for the 50-125, I didn't want to go focal length by focal length because, man, on that lens there's at least 20 stops. No exaggeration. So we're just going straight through here. But I think you can see the consistency between all the flaring between the 12-25, 20-55, and the 50-125. And then we're going to show all 3 lenses at the same time. Again, color is very well controlled. Even the veiling is pretty consistent between the lenses. And right away you can see the 20-55 has just that little extra bit of veiling. And it's because we're hitting it pretty hard with those soft boxes. But as we zoom in, that changes a little bit, but still background, skin tones, flares, all very, very consistent. All right, chapter 3, autofiction. I'm calling this the set story. Part of our marketing collaboration, I wanted to shoot as much as I could on how we were using the lenses, how we rigged them up, and we did use all 3, but the 12-25 was a bit of a special use case. The 20-55 and the 50-125 were our workhorses for the entire show. One of the things I really enjoyed about the Pictor Zooms is that they all have this matched 95mm outer diameter, which when paired with the small rig mini map box, it just slides right on. You don't have to do any screw-on adapters. And that's just so much easier in terms of lens swaps that you can just take the clamp off, do a lens change, and get a new lens on there. And we'll go through an actual lens swap and what that looked like on set. Now, our chosen production cameras for autofiction were 2 Komodos. The director provided his own, we rented out another one, and the director also brought his own 2-lens Pictor Zoom set, so we had matched sets. And again, the color consistency between the 2 cameras and the 2 lens sets, just perfect. You can also see we're rocking the Portkeys Zacuto EVF mod, and I gotta tell you, that is probably one of the best little tweaks I've ever done to any of my gear to make it so much more functional, and it became indispensable actually for critical focus. There's going to be more coming out about this. We do have like a pretty long BTS where we're going to go through the lens tests, but let us know if you guys want to see all that, because I do want to show just what the Pictor Zooms were giving us that we couldn't get from other manufacturers. And I think you'll be surprised on why we made some of those choices, but I didn't want to bog down this review with all of that. So look for our Autofiction BTS coming sometime soon. And then check out @Autofiction Film on Instagram to stay up to date. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on with the social media, and that'll also give you more examples of seeing footage that we actually captured. Now, the BTS camera that I'm shooting all of this with is actually a Zcam E2S6, and you'll see in our creative projects that are actually coming up a little bit later in this video, what makes that such a great match for the Pictor Zooms is that the E2S6 shoots open gate in 6K, and this camera's been out for several years, but it's been doing this for a long time. The Pictors cover the full height of the sensor beautifully, but on the Komodo, since it's a wider 17:9 native DCI sensor, you're also getting full edge-to-edge coverage. But what I wanted to do is see what that full sensor height would do for us. So you'll see on Misha's video, you'll see that more at work, but we'll talk more about that. So here we're doing a lens swap where, again, the map boxes just clamp right on, and there's a small difference in the size between the 12-25 and the other 2 lenses, and that it is just a little bit shorter, but not complaining. They're all pretty evenly weighted, but I like how large the optics are in the front. And what's unique is that this is kind of going to be a one and done. I think the trend right now in lens manufacturing is to make those front elements smaller and smaller. And I think when DZO developed the Pictors, and I'm just saying from my own feeling about this, I don't, no one's told me this, but I think they like really went all the way to create the best Super 35 lens that you could get, especially being a parfocal zoom that is pretty much engineered to be ready for all the rigors of TV and film production. So we were actually working with these in EF mount. When I received them from the person who had been using them prior, they already had it set up for EF mount, so I was like, why change it? And our director's set was also set to EF. And it just made it way more convenient for us to just kind of get in and be able to do these quick swaps without needing a whole lot of extra. And I'll say the EF mount on the locking EF mount for the Zcam E2S6, man, perfect fit. So here's some of the footage that we got from our very first camera test. This was us just sort of like feeling our way through how we were gonna potentially cover the story and also figure out what kind of style we wanted to do. As you know, whenever you're making a film, you gotta share a lot of references, you gotta watch a lot of stuff. There's a lot of homework that goes into it. But there's also just those instincts that are just gonna fire when you're just thrown into it and you're gonna make the choices that you're gonna make. And here you can see what a beautiful close-up you can get out of the 20 to 55. And sure, I'm very close to our director, but we have been building on that, and so this felt totally comfortable. Now, if you're working with actors, then yeah, having that 50 to 125 will give you that extra range and a little bit of space so that they'll feel more comfortable in their performance. But the voyeuristic quality of the film that we were making made it actually appropriate for us to get in very close. And hopefully when the film comes out, you'll get a chance to see why. Now here we swap over to the 50 to 125. Here's a second camera test that we did. Why you would choose to work with zooms over primes. Primes are going to give you speed and they're going to give you individual character. So each lens is going to be designed a little bit different and you can have some consistencies between all the primes, but there's something about working with zooms that to me feel like they're optimized primes. And you'll see here, we just love the veiling that was coming through on the 50 to 125. And again, we're hitting it with an Aperture Lightstorm 300X with just the reflector because we just wanted to see that hard light. And man, I love this. People might not like it, but I love what we're getting here. And that was part of the look. This was all by design. And we were testing all this stuff out because we knew just how we wanted to push these lenses. And this was actually the footage that we sent off to DZO as kind of a proof of concept. So this was a rental for us, but it just helped us really confirm that those choices that we made in the beginning were the right ones. So if I was going to choose a set of Super 35 zooms, it would be the Pictor Zooms, hands down, anytime. Part of it is we work with these extensively. So we had an 18-day shoot on Autofiction. But when you include all the camera tests, when you include all the other creative projects, I've been on set with these for, a little over 40 days, I guess. And I got so attached that actually sending them back or sending them out to the next convention was kind of hard. It was really difficult for me to see working without them and not having them. But they're at their best price right now, so what's my excuse? I think I'm looking to get another body, but yeah, I could also take these to full frame by using DZO's 1.6 expander. And I've got a 1.4 expander from another manufacturer. That's really helpful for blowing up the exit pupil for something like a vintage Ingenue 25 to 250. So now that we're back to our 20 to 55, you'll see when we go wide, there's this really nice barrel distortion. That lens is a good all-arounder. So if you could only do one, the 20 to 55 would pretty much hero all day. And you'll see here I'm able to create some really nice frames. We get in close, we can also get wide. The way that I started working with zooms is, yes, I love zooms. I probably zoomed way too much. And when you see the movie, you might agree with me, but I'll say when I'm not doing all the zooms, there is something really powerful about parking at a focal length and just walking around with it. I never had to think too much about whether I was going to get the frame that I wanted. And since lens swaps were so fast and so easy, I never felt inconvenienced to do so either. And because of that, I don't know. I'm still reaching for these lenses, but they're not in my bag, they're not in my case. We move on to budget choices and we kind of figure out what we can, but I think for any of my upcoming projects, I would rent these hands down. Also, going back to my previous comment, I don't think any lens manufacturers are going to design zooms in this range to have that large of a front optic. And I think that's what's giving the Pictors this really cool quality. Now, I'm not saying that from a technical standpoint, and you can correct me in the comments if you want or share whatever you'd like about this. Now, I would like to test the Pictors against the Katas at some point and try and match them up, do a 3-lens set versus 3-lens set just to see. But from everything I've seen from DZO, they designed their lenses to have this beautiful warmth, and it's exactly what I'm looking for. All right, chapter 4, creative project, Misha. Now this one's interesting. We wanted to use all 3 lenses on something because, why do anything the easy way? So we had 2 Zcam S6s set up with locking EF mounts, and so those took the 20 to 55, and then sort of our BTS capture camera took the 12 to 25, just because it would give us the widest angle and we could kind of set it and walk away and do what we wanted to do. And then on our Komodo X, which was our creative portrait feature camera, because we wanted to test that out, that got the 50 to 125. Misha's a tremendous talent. This was our first shoot with her, and she just showed up and just gave us some really amazing moments. And being in front of a camera for video is a very different thing than posing for stills. And since we're a hybrid team, we do shoot photos in between. So we'll run these sessions actually pretty long, where it's just long takes for the video, and then we take a break, we get our stills. So you'll see us kind of switch off D&I between our functions. And Misha never skipped a beat. And this is not with any close-up diopter. We're this close because we're at the end of the zoom. And I don't know if you'll be able to tell in the shadows, but we do have a couple of BTS shots. And then we also have these videos in a playlist. But some of these I was able to get by just putting the camera on top of my head and then using a monitor off to the side. And I would use that to see what I was doing while D would pull focus for me. It was a very unconventional way of working, but helped us get some unique angles where otherwise you'd be balancing on an apple box. This is the 12 to 25. These are some of my favorite moments. Chapter 5, Naja. Now, this was one of those where, okay, we just had to try the trend, and we got the Mylar. I gotta tell you, I love it for certain things. I wasn't quite sure, and it wasn't that I was skeptical, but It's just you start to see this like fluid texture everywhere, and you're like, well, I really want that. And so when you work with it, just be prepared. You're just gonna want it for certain things. This was another one of those low-key shoots, and also we brought a diopter out to get very close focus. But the Pictors, they just are able to do all of it, and I just love how well they perform. Treating these like optimized primes and not as a zoom, I mean, what's not to love? Now, we're also using some split diopters in the front here. That's how we're getting that effect, in case you were curious. Now, this is on the ZCam E2S6, where we mostly shot this in 6K DCI and 4K DCI, which when you go to 4K, it's not windowed, so you're still getting the full sensor. It's just downsampled to 4K. And you do that just so you can get higher frame rates. And then here's the 12 to 25 using the radiant light filter from Prism Lens Effects. And all of this is in a matte box. And then for the Mylar, we're just like punching a light in. So that's our backlight. And then we've got a f22C just out of frame as our front key. And then here's a different setup. Also, you see the effect of that split diopter in the front, where we're able to create a soft edge for the frame. But that's the versatility. The Pictor Zooms are able to still give you something that you would maybe only consider doing with primes. But I've seen them in so many BTS photos on Alexa Minis that it's just like, okay, I gotta see what the whole hype is about. Chapter 6, Julia. Now, this is our 4th project with Julia. If you see our YouTube channel, she's probably going to be very familiar to you. And we keep catching her in her different hair eras, and it's always great for us because she brings an entirely new character every time. Here we wanted to do something a little different from what we've done in the past, so we set out to downtown Austin just to shoot something because I wanted to see how well these lenses would perform out in the wild. And for this one, I set a creative restraint to only take 2 zooms. Obviously, I had to choose the 12 to 25 since we're going to be getting these massive downtown vistas, and I wanted the 50 to 125 because I wanted to get something very tight and where you could feel just sort of the compression of being in the city. And I think it worked out pretty well. We wanted these to be a bit more kinetic. This is my attempt at doing a big 360 move here with the 12 to 25, but we're punched in a little bit. And that's also something really cool about the 12 to 25 is when you're at the 12 millimeter end, it's actually this beautiful low distortion ultra wide. But when you punch into 25, you get a really great lens for giving a bit of subject separation. And it's just nice to have those framing options in one zoom where you can go from ultra wide to something closer to a normal range while still being a very flattering wide angle. We also used a steady bag for a lot of these shots, but since we were going for super kinetic, I just wanted to do these snap zooms, pushes, and walk with her. And that's kind of my handheld approach too, is I treat it more like a dance. Here we got the 50 to 125, then back to the 12 to 25, back to the 50 to 125. I will say pulling focus on this is pretty hard, so I think if I was going to do another run, I would really want the DJI Focus Pro system to help out with that. Man, I think LiDAR really is going to be the future. So parting thoughts, I just want to say thank you to DZO. You've been a tremendous creative partner for us, and the amount of trust that you showed us. Again, I hope this review does anything in return, but honestly, having this time with the full Pictor Zoom set, I mean, I'm a believer. I mean, if I could pick these up tomorrow, I would. We'll have more on Autofiction with a very deep dive BTS, and we'll have a full DP cam up commentary for that one. But till then, thanks for watching, please consider subscribing, commenting. Let us know what else you want to see in the comments. Thank you.